I'm Elad Gilo, one of the co-founders of Reach. Cold Email Hot Takes is a mini video series in which we talk to inspiring sales leaders about their approach to outbound sales. In this week's episode, we're excited to be joined by Yaalit from Vidyard. Can you quickly introduce yourself, Yaalit?
Sure. I'm Yaalit, like Alan said, from Vidyard. I'm an account executive at Vidyard. And I love everything video. I'm a mom, and that's about all I have to say about myself, I think.
Well, you're also the founder of SDRs of Israel and have been recognized by various lists as a sort of a rising sales talent. So we're really, really excited to have you with us. Um, one of the things that we think about a lot when we're doing sort of our own cold outreach is just how overwhelmed people are when they're receiving so many emails. So I'm curious, what are some of the things you guys do at Vidyard or yourself to stand out from the crowd and get noticed?
So I always come back just to video, right? Like I feel like video is so powerful when it comes to just allowing yourself the chance to just speak, right? Get your voice across, use your body language, right? Your hands, and just really connect with your prospect. And I think the thing is with that, right, is people like, oh, well, will someone click on my video, but will someone read your email, right? At least if someone clicks on your video, at least if it's on Vidyard, right, you know about that and you know how much they've actually engaged with it, which for me is huge, right? Because that really lets me see, am I doing things right or am I not doing things right?
So video is an interesting medium that we've been hearing a lot more people starting to use this in their outreach. So I'm curious because it is kind of like the ultimate form of personalization if you really do it for each one. Are you creating unique videos for everyone you're reaching out to?
Yeah, so for the most part, I do. I mean, I do something a bit different that, like, because obviously you can have four or five people, right, in one company where that specific thing that you're saying is relevant to them. And I find that when I used to, I mean, before Vidyard, when I would try to personalize an email to each one of those people, that could take me ages, right? Because you want to say
Right.
something different to each person. You want to let them know that it's for them, but it's the same shit, right? You don't really have anything different to say.
Right.
So what I really like to do with video is I'll just have like each one of their LinkedIn pages open, right? And I'll click through each one, like, oh, hey, Lizzie, hey, Tom, hey, Walter, it's Yaalit from Vidyard. Well, actually, I never say it's Yaalit from Vidyard, but I just kind of get into it and explain why I'm making them that video. So it is personalized to them, right? But I'm just not wasting that time of like every single person sending the same exact thing because I can just do that in one video if they're all in the same company. They're probably going to talk about it anyways. So,
So you're
yeah.
able to kind of create like a unique intro then for each one and then keep like the bulk of it the same, or
So I actually don't. I will go ahead and record each video, right? But like I'll
Mhm.
have one video for those three people. So I just say
Okay,
like, hey Tom, hey Walter, whatever, and then I'll just get
gotcha.
into my actual script. So I don't do any like editing or anything like that. It's
Right,
just
right. And what are like it's something that we haven't experimented too much with ourselves. So I'm curious, like, are there best practices? Like, do you guys try to keep it under a certain amount of time, or what do you
yeah.
what do you do?
Yeah, so we always try to keep it under a minute if you can. I always say, like, if it's super relevant, right? And what you're saying is really speaking to the company, and you're not just like blabbering on about your own company and what you have to offer, then I would say maybe you can even go a bit over a minute. But I always try to keep it under a minute. Even like 40-second mark is perfect because everyone has like 40 seconds to quickly listen to something. It's not such a huge ask. And also, you don't want to give away too much, right? If you give away too much, they start making assumptions. Oh, well, you said this and that, but you didn't say that one other thing that I need. So maybe you can't help me, right? So I always
Right.
try to keep it like give enough information on why I think we can help, but also keep it vague enough that they'll actually want to talk to me.
Interesting. Are you also using video in your kind of follow-ups, or is it just for that first email?
Yeah, so I use it in my follow-ups too. Like I have little videos that I'll use. Say, for example, if someone hasn't answered me, I love using like GIFs and memes and all things like that in my outreach. But I have like someone on my previous team on the SDR team, Alice. She taught us this thing that you just kind of go like this in the video or like that, depending, and it just points at the other email that you just sent. So it's almost like a GIF, but when someone clicks on it, you'll still get the notification from Vidyard that they watched it, right? So it's like a second
Hmm.
long. So that's something I like to do. And then also like throughout the process, using more generic videos, right? So just wanted to give you this video tip, right? Little things that you can do throughout the process, but most of that, for me at least, it comes down to the tracking. Like, I want to know, are you watching that, and how much of that are you watching? Which is why I like to continue putting those in throughout, and also because it's a value add if you're doing it properly.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense, and I think there's definitely something very engaging, of course, around sort of just like visual content, right? Do you find, because there's something I'm not super familiar with, but are you, and one of the reasons that we've kind of like stripped out a lot of content from our emails is that we're like nervous around deliverability. You know, like will the email actually arrive? Like, is it going to be caught by some sort of like spam filter because it shows, you know, like is I guess is Vidyard kind of able to handle that? Like it's
Yeah,
generally
so
arriving.
Vidyard, that's exactly what happens, right? Like when you have that GIF in the email, it's not actually the video there. So it's not like some heavy like video that you've now
Mm.
put in the email that's probably going to get blocked, right? Because like who sends a whole video like that over
Right.
email? You actually click out to it, you come to a landing page, and then that's also how we track the analytics. So that GIF, it just kind of shows up like a photo. Like if you have a logo in your signature, right? It would be the same thing to an email server. So we don't really have any issues there in terms of like kind of getting blocked or spam
Right.
or anything like that.
Fantastic. And are you doing anything else, sort of outside of video in terms of personalization that you find is effective?
So for me, like Vidyard has really taught me. I mean, a lot of people might assume, oh, well, it's Vidyard, so only do videos, but we really do like a multi-channel approach. So whether that's picking up the phone or using LinkedIn or sending a regular email every now and then, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's just kind of like standing out and doing like the funny things, right? So sending that weird gif or that weird meme or like the skeleton on the bench that you're waiting for them. Those kinds of things I feel for me really help. And even when I'm not getting that answer of, oh yeah, let's get on a call, it's usually like, okay, this was funny, like thanks for reaching out, but it's not as relevant right now. Reach out, blah 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 time. Which for me is better even sometimes than getting that let's get on a call.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's and so it sounds like humor is definitely something that works for you, yeah, to kind of keep it
Definitely.
light and yeah.
Definitely. I think it's like no secret nowadays, right? Like so many SDRs and AEs and anyone pretty much doing outreach knows about it. But I think a lot of people are kind of scared to take that leap. And like the worst, I always say, what's the worst that can happen, right? People tell you that you're unprofessional or they just don't answer you when they weren't answering you before. So I don't see anything that I can lose there.
You know, and I think if you're working in sales anyway, we're already so used to receiving the unsubscribes or like, you know, stop emailing me or take me off your list or so. I mean, like we're used to it, right? Um, so I'm curious, you know, some things that you try to do to add value. This is something that, you know, we think about, especially in your phone when you're reaching out to people and you have multiple touch points. Are there things you do that you think are effective in terms of sharing certain content? It sounds like some generic video clips you like to send. Do you find that effective? Like so some people say either educate them or make them laugh, and it sounds like you're probably doing a mix of both.
Yeah, so I believe in both of those, but I think like, kind of towards the end, kind of not really having an ask anymore. Because I think that if in every single email you're saying, oh, can we get on a call? Can we get on a call? Can we get on a call? It's kind of like, it's just, it's annoying already, right? It's like, I didn't say we can get on a call in the beginning. So if anything, just try to catch them by giving them something that's going to give them value. So I like to do, even with the videos that I have that are generic, they kind of feel personalized, right? Because I'm still saying, hey there, I know I still haven't caught you, but I just like to give you this little clip on how to make the most effective video or how to increase adoption across your team when it comes to video, right? So things like that, I'll just take like struggles that I know I hear, right, in calls that I have as an AE or when I was an SDR and use those as our tips. Which, if you work for a great organization, right, you can probably find someone else who's already given that information somewhere and then just turn it into a little clip and it's much easier to share too.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I like especially like this type of like in your guys' case with Vidyard and a little bit what we do as well. Like by reaching out in this way, you're actually just showing them just in every action you're showing them how it works, right? And like what they can expect. So you're kind of you're educating by doing. So every time you send them a new way to kind of utilize your tool, they're also learning about how Vidyard could actually serve them. So I love that there's kind of this multi-layer kind of aspect. Um, no, I think adding value is it's kind of necessary, but it's always a tricky thing of like making sure it's super relevant. And a lot of people get caught up in like sending these like 20-page PDFs or like some blog that's just like way too long that nobody's going to read. So if it's like a really short video, I think it's great. Or like, a few bullet points about something that they would relate to. Obviously, obviously fantastic. Um, I'm curious, like, how do you think about, especially in this like multi-channel approach, um, with LinkedIn and everything, social selling? Are you guys going heavy in that side of things as well, and like trying to just either create content or just engage with content?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I can speak for myself. I think everyone in Vidyard does something a bit different. Like we have amazing performers that you'll never see them on LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know what they do behind the scenes, but you won't see them posting anything. And then you have others, right, that are also amazing that are posting and contributing there. For me, I always just say like LinkedIn is more than work for me, like my current job, right? Because just a way to kind of network with people, put your name out there, right? And also even the people that you aren't reaching out to, being able to put yourself at the top of mind of other people, right? So I just like I use LinkedIn and I say, okay, I'll post, right? So people can see I'm a legit person. I'm not like some random that just uses LinkedIn for the chat. And then also just reaching out to people, right, through Messenger when I need to. But I feel like it's a lot more effective when you actually have a presence on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Um, so for me, that's what I do. It's kind of hard to keep up with LinkedIn sometimes. I feel like there's so much going on. There's so much content. But I try my best. I try my best. So it's I go through phases.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think especially in our line of work, I think LinkedIn is very a very powerful platform, especially if you're selling to other salespeople, because obviously they're very active on LinkedIn. But the way we think about it, I'm curious if you agree with this, but is that you know, because timing is so hard to nail in sales, and you never know if like somebody's actually in the market for what you're selling at that moment in time. It's just like a great way to kind of stay top of mind. So like by connecting with the people, your prospects, et cetera, and by periodically kind of posting your own content or engaging with theirs, the odd comment, the like, very subtle stuff, like not pitching them via message like all the time. It's just like you're staying like on the top of their mind. So if you want to reach out or reconnect in a couple months, it's not completely, out of nowhere.
For sure. No, and I also find too, like, even if I have people, right, that I have like a dead op with that they'll never ever buy from me or whatever the situation was, or they even left the company, like when I see them on LinkedIn, I'll still go and like, their posts because it's such an easy way to also keep them top of mind for us. And I
Yeah,
feel like just as much as prospects have so many salespeople reaching out to them and trying to get their attention, we're also reaching out to so many people, right? So it's not that easy to keep everyone top of mind.
it's true.
Of course, you can put them all in cadences, but then the cadence ends, and what are you going to like? You have a million cadences, right? And if you just have them like on LinkedIn, it's an easy way to like every now and then they're just going to come up. You can nurture them a bit, and you never know when that's going to pay off. It might never, but it might.
No, that's a really good point. I think it's a great reminder for ourselves. We're reaching out to so many people, and even if you have a great CRM and you have some ops team that's doing like nurturing campaigns, it's hard to keep track, right? And so like by seeing them pop up in your feed, you're like, oh great, like that's cool. Oh, they changed jobs. Like let me go. Like it's a reason to reach out. Um, I'm curious. So you alluded to this a little bit before, but are you guys doing hard CTAs or soft CTAs in the sense? Are you asking immediately for that like quick call, or are you just saying like, hey, is this relevant or interested in learning more or something like that?
So I like to do something a bit, I don't know, I guess it might be considered hard because we do it at the end of our video, right? So with the upgraded version, at least of Vidyard, which obviously all the employees are using,
Right.
you have the option to put like your calendar tool right at the end of the video. So I'll do things like, go ahead and book in some time with me in 3, 2, 1. And then the calendar pops up, right? So people are waiting like what's gonna happen in 3, 2, 1 because they're not necessarily expecting that. Or my calendar is
Hmm.
going to pop up at the end of this video. Let me give you all the information you need in just one call, which is true, right? For my segment, we'll go through everything in one call, pricing and all. So it's, if they're interested, it might be worthwhile for them to do that. But all of the call to actions that I do, and I think most people within Vidyard are going to be at the end of our videos, which
Hmm.
for us, I guess if the whole message is in the video, if they haven't watched the video, then they're probably not going to book that time with you, right? Because they don't know what you want.
Right. Are you finding that people are using that, like in terms of like that they're booking through the video?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
it's
like,
cool.
I rarely have someone who will book, like, say, for example, in my signature on my email, I also have like book in some time with me. I think maybe twice in my whole time at Vidyard, someone's used that. It's almost always with the calendar at the end of my video. So I can say, like, not too long ago, from 60 emails that I sent out, which was not, it wasn't 60 videos because I did most of those were to a few different people in one company. So it was one video. And then from those, I booked in 13 demos. And not one of those people replied back to me, right? They all just booked in through that calendar at the end of the video. So I
Wow.
think it's just something psychological too. Like I was taught a while ago, like prospects, they need to be told what to do, right? You can't just make assumptions or, oh, when you feel like it, like they're not going to feel like it or it's not going to be, maybe sometimes, but for the most part, you're probably not going to get what you want if you don't ask for it straight up.
Yeah.
And I just think that having it at the end of the video, they just listen to you. Now you're telling them, okay, go ahead and take that next step. And they can do that at the end of the video without having to click anywhere, outside of that video, do anything strange. Just put in their name, email, choose a time, and done.
Hmm. No, to me it makes sense. I mean, I think now we're seeing there's a lot of most people we talk to probably like lean towards this like interest-based CTAs and stuff like that. Like, hey, is this relevant to you guys? Or interested in like seeing some examples or whatever the specific CTA is. But I'm also a believer that like hard CTAs can work, especially if you really show the value and you kind of explain well, very succinctly, but like explain well kind of how this can benefit them and it's relevant to them. I think nobody's like kidding themselves. They know at the end of the day we're asking for time. Like we want time, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I think it can work. On the other hand, like I do believe that like some people psychologically like time is like the hardest thing to ask for because
Yeah.
everyone's super protective of their time. And so like, one or two maybe touch points more of like building that trust and like engaging in conversation is like easier to like lower that guard, but it's always
Yeah,
interesting.
I just think like you're already in with video, right? You're already doing that in a sense because you're already allowing them to hear you and to see you. They're getting a kind of idea of who you are. And for me, like the most like I don't get prospected, but if I were to get prospected, I would think like the most annoying thing for me could be if someone was like, "Oh, let me know what time works for you." Because now I'm like, "Oh shit, now I need to go in my calendar, look at different times, obviously I'm going to offer more than one time. What if it doesn't work for them then? Like it's just
Right.
such a long process. And I hear a lot of people that do it like that and say that that's what works in their industry. But for me, I've never had success with something like that. Like I think the calendar tool is a lifesaver. I've seen some strange LinkedIn posts saying otherwise lately, but for me, I don't think it's rude. I think it's the best thing ever. Just give me your calendar link. Let me see what works for you, and let's get started.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like there's a lot of different sectors or different segments or different ICPs that you feel like you have to like play different games and like sometimes it's like psychological thing. It's like, oh, don't make it feel too automated. Like let's go through some manual hoops to like make it, it's always weird. But I think this kind of speaks to the point of just like knowing who you're reaching out to, knowing your sector, knowing your ICP, and like within that, there's a lot of things that are permissible or not,
Mhm.
depending on who you're reaching out to. And what works in one doesn't necessarily work in another. And I think that's kind of the beauty of sales, that you always really have to kind of invent a playbook that just like works extremely well for that persona in that industry, et cetera.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, no, but this is really, really fun talking to you, Yalit, and a lot of great things for us to think about, especially in terms of video. I mean, this is something that we're just now kind of scratching the surface on. So thank you for sharing everything with us. And yeah, we'll love to have you back again.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.